Hello and welcome, Angular enthusiasts and aspiring developers. Are you ready to take your Angular skills to the next level? Have you ever found yourself scratching your head wondering how to seamlessly integrate radio buttons into your Angular projects? If so, you are in the right place. Today, we are going to dive deep into the world of radio buttons, especially in Angular 17, the latest version of one of the most popular web development frameworks. But first, let me introduce myself. I am Ayaz Zafar, a professional web developer with over 12 years of experience in building dynamic and responsive web applications. I have been working with Angular since its early versions, and I have witnessed its evolution into the powerful tool it is today. Throughout my journey, I have tackled numerous projects, big and small, and have gathered a wealth of practical insights and tricks, especially when it comes to implementing user-friendly interfaces with components like radio buttons. In this tutorial, we will go step by step, covering everything from setting up your Angular environment to implementing and customizing radio buttons in your web applications. Whether you are a beginner eager to learn or an experienced developer looking to update your knowledge with Angular 17's latest features, this tutorial has something for everyone. So grab your coffee, open up your code editor, and let's get started on mastering radio buttons in Angular 17. In the first segment, we will explore the basics of radio buttons and their role in web development, particularly in Angular 17. So let's get started. Radio buttons are a type of input elements commonly seen in the web forms. They allow users to select one and only one option from a set of choices. Think of them like the answer sheets in a multiple choice test. You can only fill in one circle per question. Why are they so important? Well, radio buttons provide a straightforward way for users to make choices. They are essential in situations where a user must select a single option from a group, such as choosing a payment method, selecting a shipping address, or answering a survey question. Their simplicity and ease of use make them a go-to element for user-friendly interface design. Now let's talk about Angular 17. Angular has always been a powerhouse for creating dynamic single-page applications, and with version 17, it's become even more robust and efficient. Angular 17 comes with a range of new features and improvements. Now that we have a solid understanding of radio buttons and exciting features of Angular 17, we are ready to start setting up our development environment. In the next segment, I will guide you through this process step by step, so stay tuned. Now we will set up Angular environment. This is a crucial step in getting ready to work with radio buttons in Angular 17. First, we need to ensure that Node.js and NPM, that is also called Node Package Manager, are installed on your computer. Angular requires these tools for its environment. If you have not installed them already, head over to nodejs.org to download and install the latest version. With Node.js and NPM ready, open your terminal or command prompt. We'll start by installing the Angular CLI, which is command line interface for Angular. This tool helps us create projects, generate application code, and perform a variety of ongoing development tasks. To install it, just type this command in your terminal: npm install-g angular/CLI. This command installs the Angular CLI globally on your machine, making it accessible from any directory. I already have it installed, so I will not run it, but I will just show you my version of Angular CLI. So you can see that 17 is installed in my computer already. I have Node.js 18.16 and NPM has 9.5.1 version. Now let's create a new Angular project. So in your terminal, navigate to the folder where you want your project to be and run this command ng-new and your project name. Okay. Press enter and this command creates a new directory with the name of your project that you have specified in your CLI command with all the necessary Angular files and folders. I already have created my project by using this command, so I will directly use that one. I have opened it already in my editor. I'm using VS Code. You can also use it, or you can use whatever editor you prefer. Let's take a quick look at the structure of an Angular application. So an Angular application is comprised of several key parts. The source directory contains your app source code, and the app folder holds your components, services, and other files, and index.html is the main HTML file for your app. Angular uses modules to organize code or standalone components in the latest version of Angular. Mostly we have been using app.module.ts in the past version, but after the latest update we have the standalone components available that eliminates the need of modules. You can simply mark your component as standalone and you can use it without depending on the modules. But if you have the app module, then that is the root module that tells Angular how to assemble the application. With our project set up, we are now ready to dive into exciting part, implementing radio buttons in our Angular application. Next, I will show you exactly how to do that step by step. We have set up our Angular environment and now it's time to get our hands dirty with some code. So now we will cover how to add radio buttons to a form and explore some advanced features. So let's start by adding radio buttons to a form. Open your Angular project in your favorite code editor and navigate to your components HTML file. In our case, we will be using the app.component.html. So here we will create a simple form with group of radio buttons. So let's do that. Here I will add form and label, and inside label I will add the input, and instead of type text I will add the radio, then name, options, value, option 1, and here I will add option 1. So now let's copy paste this label tag and let's change the values and text. Okay, so we have the same name but different values for these radio buttons. So in this form we have two radio buttons, each labeled option 1 and option 2. Notice that both radio buttons have the same name attribute. So this is crucial because it groups the buttons together, ensuring that only one can be selected at the time. Now let's talk about binding these radio buttons to a component property. In Angular we use the ngModel directive for two-way data binding. But in order to use that, make sure you have imported the forms module in your app.module or in your standalone component where you are going to use it. So I'm going to use it in the app.component standalone component. So I will simply add import it here. Okay, now it is available to use. Now I will go to the app.component.ts and here I will define a property selected option is equal to, actually type a string and keep it empty and make it optional, or you can also set the empty value if you want. Now to every input I will add a directive ngModel and give it the property that you just created in the component. Similarly, do the same for the second radio button. Here the ngModel directive binds the radio button's value to the selected option property in our component. Whenever a user selects a radio button, the selected option will update to reflect the chosen value. And in our TypeScript file, we have declared a property selected option. This will hold the value of the selected radio button. Now let's quickly see in the browser in action. So in order to see that, I will add another curly braces and here I will add the value of selected option. So whatever you will pick, it will be reflected here in the browser. So let's go to the browser and you can see that right now it is option 1, option 2, nothing is selected. But if you select 1, then you will see that option 1 value is there. Actually, let me fix the direction, flex direction column. Okay, now you can see that whatever you will pick, the value will be shown below. So let me add value, or you can say selected value. All right. Moving on to the more advanced features, let's look at creating dynamic radio button groups and applying custom styles. Suppose you want your radio buttons to be generated based on an array of options. So this is how you will be able to do that. So let's come to our HTML file again, and I'm going to remove this label, and this time let's wrap this with the for loop and put it between the for loop, and in the for, by the way, this is the latest syntax of Angular 17. In the past, we used to have static ngFor, but now we use the for loop in this way. This is better way to run the for loop on your HTML. Now here I will add the variable option of options and track option.id, or maybe you can add the index as well. So here I will add track option.id. Okay, now we need to define the options array in the TS file to get rid of this error. So this for is used here to loop over an array named options that we will create shortly. For each option, a radio button is created dynamically. This is extremely useful when dealing with a variable number of choices. Now let's add the options in the TS file. Here I will add. So in this way we will add multiple options. Okay, now let's remove this hard-coded value and use the value that is coming from the option. Okay, now let's look at that. So here you can see that we can replace it with the dynamic value here as well. Okay, so you can change this thing as well. So let's suppose you can add a label property in your objects. So now we have the label property in our object, so I can simply access the label here. So in this way, the value would be different than the label. So whatever you will pick will be added in the selected value property, and that will be displayed here like that. Lastly, let's add some custom styles to our radio buttons. So Angular allows you to use regular CSS or even Sass for styling. So this is simple example that we're going to implement of how you can style your radio button. So head back to your SCSS file, and here I will add input with the attribute type is equal to radio, and here I will add margin right 10 pixels, and then I will add the label margin right 20 pixels, font weight bold. So let's see how does it look. Okay, you can see we did some basic styling here. With these CSS styles, our radio buttons now have better spacing and the labels are bold, making them more user-friendly and visually appealing. And that's how you implement and enhance the radio buttons in Angular 17. Next, we will put our skills to test with a real-world application example. Now we are going to apply what we have learned to a real-world scenario. Let's create a survey form using radio buttons. This form will be part of customer feedback page for a fictional cafe. First, we will design our survey form. We want to ask our customer a simple question. What's your favorite type of coffee? With multiple choices. Okay. So let's do that. In the HTML, I will just remove all of this for now. And here I will add the paragraph tag, and I will add what is your favorite coffee. Okay. And in the for loop, I will add the label, and here you will have coffee types, and this variable would be coffee type. Okay, and let's add this here as well. Now in the label, I will add an input type radio, name coffee, and then ng model, and give it the property that you want to use. Favorite coffee, we will define these properties shortly. And in the value, I will add coffee type dot value. Okay, and here we have the coffee type dot label. All right, now let's go to the TS file and we will define this property. So I will basically replace the old properties with the new one. So this will become the favorite coffee, and this will options would be renamed to coffee types. Okay. So in the HTML, we use the for loop to dynamically create radio buttons for each coffee type. The coffee types array in our TypeScript file will contain different options like espresso, latte, cappuccino, etc. So let's define those. I will get rid of all of these and let's add the correct value. Espresso. Let me add the other objects. Okay, so now let's add a submit button to our form and handle the form submission. So go back to the HTML, and here I will add a button, and here I will add type submit, and here I will add text submit. And now in the form tag, I will simply add register an event listener for ng submit, or just submit, and we'll call a function submit survey. Okay, now let's go back to the TS file and let's define this missing function, that is submit survey. Okay, and you can simply alert it or console it, whatever you prefer. So with this setup, when user submits the form, we will show the favorite coffee in the alert. This is a basic example, but in real application you might send this data to a server. So let's quickly test it. So you can see that we have this survey, and if you select a value, you will see the selected value below. Something is wrong here. Let's see. We made a mistake here that we were passing a string here, so make sure to add square bracket to make it JavaScript. Now it will send the actual value from this object. Okay, now let's try it again, and you can see that whatever value you will pick, it will be added in the favorite coffee property. Okay, and if you submit that, you will see that cappuccino or whatever you have selected in the alert. Testing is an essential part of development. To test our radio buttons, we can simply run our Angular application and interact with the form. Try selecting different options and submitting the form. Check the console to see if the selected value is logged correctly. If things don't work as expected, don't worry. Debugging is the key skill. Here are some common issues and tips for debugging. First one is check your bindings. So ensure that the ng model binding is correctly set up. A common mistake is a typo in the property name. Second one is verify array values. If your radio buttons are generated dynamically, make sure the array in your TypeScript file is correctly populated. Next is inspect element name. So radio button in a group should have the same name attribute. Different names will treat them as separate groups. Use Angular DevTools. The Angular DevTools for browsers are great for inspecting and debugging Angular applications in a more visual way. With these tips, you should be able to tackle most issues that come in your way. Congratulations, you have now learned how to effectively use radio button in Angular 17, from basic implementation to a real-world application. Thank you for following along. Don't forget to practice what you have learned, and remember, the more you code, the more proficient you will become. As we wrap up this tutorial, let's quickly recap the main points we have covered today. First, we started with an understanding of radio buttons and their significance in user interface design. We then set up our Angular environment, ensuring we have the right tools to get started. After that, we moved on to the core of our tutorial, where we implement radio buttons in a form. We covered everything from basic implementation, including binding values and handling user selections, to more advanced features like creating dynamic radio buttons, button groups, and customizing styles. In the last, we applied our knowledge to a real-world scenario by creating a survey form. We also discussed important aspects of testing and debugging, equipping you with the skills to build and troubleshoot your own Angular applications. The skills you have learned today are not just theoretical, they have real-world applications that can enhance the user experience in your web projects. Mastering these techniques in Angular 17 will undoubtedly add value to your development toolkit. But remember, the best way to solidify your learning is by practicing. So I encourage you to take what you have learned today and start integrating radio buttons into your own Angular projects. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. I love hearing from you, and it helps me create more content that you will find useful. Also, don't forget to check out my other tutorials for more Angular tips and tricks. There is always something new to learn. As we close, I want to thank you for joining me today. Here at Ayaz Tech, our mission is to empower and inspire developers of all levels with practical, engaging content. Your support and engagement make this community amazing. Keep coding, stay curious, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.